Life Wisdom. What is MSG? Why is it added to so many different foods? How does MSG affect our appetite and weight gain? Can MSG cause overeating? Can MSG contribute to diabetes? Should we avoid MSG? And if so, why? Many foods contain MSG even if it's not listed on the label. How can you tell if the foods you're eating contain MSG? In this video, I'm going to discuss the food additive monosodium glutamate, or MSG. If you are struggling with your weight, or if you have intense food cravings, I suggest that you watch this video and please share it with your friends. Just to start out with a bang, you should know that in over 500 scientific studies, MSG has been used to create obese and diabetic mice. So they actually take a baby mouse and inject it with MSG because they know that the mouse will become obese and diabetic, and then can be the subject of their scientific study. And if you search Google Images for MSG mice, you'll find picture after picture of these super obese mice that have been artificially created with MSG. So what that fact alone says to me is that if you're struggling with your weight, or if you have problems with blood sugar or a history of diabetes, that you should be avoiding MSG altogether. So we'll discuss the effects of MSG a little later in this video and give you some tips on how you can identify foods that contain it. So what is MSG, or monosodium glutamate? It's composed of sodium, or salt, and glutamate. And we all know what salt is, but what is glutamate? Glutamate is actually an amino acid, and it's also a neurotransmitter. So as an amino acid, it forms the building blocks of our proteins, and as a neurotransmitter, it has an excitatory effect. So some neurotransmitters are excitatory and others are inhibitory, which means they have a more calming effect. And it's this excitatory effect of MSG that's the reason it's added to our food. The food industry calls MSG a flavor enhancer. So it's used to make food taste better. And in many cases, it makes foods that wouldn't normally taste good taste awesome. I heard a doctor once say that you could add MSG to dirt and people would think it tasted good. He also commented that if Chicken McNuggets didn't contain the artificial flavors and flavor enhancers like MSG, that they would probably taste like dirt or cardboard. But you need to know that MSG has an excitatory effect on the brain. So it's kind of like inserting your finger into your brain and stimulating your pleasure center. And we have a few videos about this pleasure button phenomena. One is called Push My Pleasure Button, and the other is called Junk Food Zombie Apocalypse. And these videos explain in detail how the food industry exploits our reward and pleasure system in order to make their foods more enjoyable and habit-forming. So if you're eating something that has a drug-like effect of stimulating your brain, then it's going to be awfully yummy, but it's also going to be habit-forming and even have addictive effects. Now, glutamate does occur naturally within the body. As I mentioned, it's a neurotransmitter and an amino acid. And because it's a common amino acid and building block of proteins, it also occurs naturally in many different foods. But MSG, on the other hand, is a product of refining. So you actually refine this down to a pure chemical substance, which elicits a very intense excitatory response on your brain. In our video, Junk Food Designed to Be Addictive, we explain the refining process in more detail and how these highly refined chemicals affect our brains. But suffice it to say, It's the difference between a glass of wine, which contains 9% alcohol by volume, and Everclear, which contains something like 99% alcohol by volume. We have glutamate receptors all throughout our body, and they are most concentrated in our nervous system and particularly in our brain. So if MSG excites nerves and causes them to fire, then when we eat foods that contain MSG, it kind of creates a party for our nervous system. And again, this excitatory response is the primary reason that the food industry adds MSG to so many different foods. And they get away with doing so by calling it a flavor enhancer, although it could more appropriately be called a neuroexcitatory chemical. So you can just imagine yourself turning over a food label, and instead of seeing the words flavor enhancer, it would actually say neuroexcitatory chemical, because that's really what it is. But how much excitement is too much excitement? We visited this question in our video on overstimulation and addiction. Research has proven that overstimulating your nervous system with glutamates can actually damage nerve cells and even kill nerve cells. And so refined glutamates are often called excitotoxins. The Science Daily definition of excitotoxicity is the pathological process by which neurons are damaged or even killed due to overactivations of receptors for the excitatory neurotransmitter glutamate. So you get the idea that MSG excites you and makes foods more pleasurable to eat. But if you excite your nerve cells too much, it can damage them or even kill them. Now, I'm not claiming that the amount of MSG consumed in the average American diet is enough to kill or damage your nerve cells, but the excitotoxic nature of MSG is probably the reason behind MSG sensitivities. People complain of symptoms like migraine headaches, visual problems, nausea, diarrhea, weakness, and even a rash after consuming MSG. Additionally, some doctors have noted that nervous system disorders like autism, multiple sclerosis, fibromyalgia, and epilepsy, and mental health conditions like depression, addiction, and ADHD are actually aggravated or made worse by the consumption of MSG. To make matters worse, food manufacturers and marketers of processed foods have actually formed a lobbying group called the Glutamate Association. On their website, they promote many studies related to MSG. One of them touts the health benefit that MSG causes elderly people to eat more food. But one has to ask, if MSG makes elderly people eat more food, then wouldn't it make everyone eat more food, regardless of their age? So how does MSG affect our food intake? Why is it that mice injected with MSG will end up obese and diabetic? It's because glutamate stimulates an insulin response and actually causes our body to release more insulin than we need. In the video, How to Lose Weight, Gain Weight, or Maintain Your Weight, I explain in detail how these rapid blood sugar swings actually cause overeating and cause weight gain. In the video, Fast Food Designed to be Addictive, we further explain how these blood sugar swings affect our appetite and our inclination to overeat. It's as simple as this. The pancreas, the organ which is responsible for secreting insulin and helping to regulate our blood sugar, is one of the organs with many receptors for glutamate. So when we eat large amounts of glutamate in the form of MSG, we overstimulate the pancreas and it releases more insulin than our body really needs to handle the food we just ate. Whenever we eat foods that raise our blood sugar, Our pancreas releases insulin, and that insulin helps to lower the blood sugar back down to an optimal level. But when we eat foods containing MSG, the pancreas is overstimulated and actually secretes more insulin than is needed. So it actually pushes your blood sugar level back down below the optimal amount, creating artificial hunger, food cravings, and even moodiness. Scientific studies have shown that when mice consume MSG, it actually lowers their blood sugar levels, whereas when we eat, our blood sugar levels should raise. So consuming MSG is going to throw off our blood sugar regulating system, which is crucial for preventing us from gaining weight, preventing artificial hunger and food cravings. And the hook here is that the food industry is exploiting our blood sugar system and exploiting our insulin response by using MSG to create artificial hunger, to create food cravings, and to cause overeating. Insulin also tells the body to go ahead and store any excess sugar in the blood as fat. So it accelerates the process of pulling excess sugar out of the blood and storing it in your fat cells. So if you compared a meal that doesn't contain MSG with a meal that does, a normal meal you're going to eat and that sugar will persist in your blood for some amount of time, giving you energy over that course of time. But a meal containing MSG is going to have a much higher insulin response. And that insulin is going to cause the sugar in that meal to be stored as fat more quickly. So you actually have a less and shorter duration of time that sugar is present in your blood and available to your body for energy. And if you've ever eaten a 1,500 calorie fast food meal and felt hungry just an hour later, this is why. I should also note that 1,500 calories is just under your entire daily caloric intake. And if you're eating those 1,500 calories all in one meal and you're still hungry a little while later, this is a huge contributor to weight gain. Continuously spiking your blood sugar and causing these intense insulin responses can also lead to type 2 diabetes. More than 500 scientific studies have shown that mice given MSG will become obese and diabetic. And here we sit in the United States with 7 out of 10 Americans overweight and the highest obesity rates in the world. And literally tons of MSG being pumped into the American food supply. So you get the picture. The more MSG is pumped into the food supply, the more people are hungrier, the more food they buy, the more food they eat and overeat, and the more weight they gain. The other thing you need to know is that it's not the monosodium part of MSG that's the problem, it's the refined glutamates. And glutamates can come in many different forms. There's disodium glutamate, potassium glutamate, calcium glutamate, and even just free glutamates all by themselves. And sometimes there are hidden glutamates that don't even include the word glutamate. Anything hydrolyzed, like hydrolyzed soy protein or hydrolyzed cornstarch, yeast extract, maltodextrin, modified cornstarch, soy protein, dextrose, and many others. Basically, almost all processed and fast foods are going to contain glutamates, whether they say MSG on the label or not. I've seen items in the grocery store that proudly proclaim no MSG on the label. But if I turn it over, lo and behold, there's the disodium glutamate. If you want a very simple guide to how to eat healthy foods and avoid these negative, unhealthy foods, check out my video, The Easiest Diet Ever. There are a lot of ways to die in this world. You guys have asked in several of your comments about vitamin toxicity. So in a future video, I'm going to cover vitamin toxicity and answer the question, can you really die from taking too many vitamins? And in another video, I'm going to continue my series on hazardous food chemicals, and we're going to cover the artificial sweetener, aspartame. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you found it interesting, I hope that you will share it with your friends. Please be sure to leave your questions and any topic requests below in the comments. Hit that like button for me if you liked this video, and please be sure to subscribe so we will see you again next time. Thanks. If you've ever felt addicted to junk food or had a food craving you just couldn't overcome, check out our video, Fast Food Designed to be Addictive. If zombies will kill to feed on brains, will Americans kill to feed on junk food? Check out our video, The Junk Food Zombie Apocalypse. For a thorough understanding of how blood sugar and insulin can affect our weight gain and our weight loss, check out the video, How to Gain or Lose Weight. Check out my video, The Easiest Diet Ever, for a simple guide on which foods are healthy and will help you lose weight and which foods you need to avoid.